Hi there. I've been thinking about oil and credit and all those things lately, and I can now explain why I believe a military coup in the US is inevitable. Well, the explanation is a little bit like this. In the beginning of the 20th century, people were used to being dependent on each other's existence. They were all doing quite some manual labor, and some personal were having some personal skills because the processes that brought about society were quite complex. So you had bakers and carpenters and drivers and notaries and lawyers, all these different skills that people could have. Of course, oil changed all that. It changed basically the need for a lot of people because of mechanization, of automated production, and of course because people were not required to have personal physical effort put into the work. But because people came from a place where they were all dependent on each other and they were quite enjoying, of course, their laborious life, they tried to create a society in which there was justice, equality, because it was necessary for the cooperation that was also necessary to have the society as a whole. Oil basically changed that, changed the society into a place where you don't need people, where you don't need to cooperate, where you need machines and energy is so abundant, so you simply have to have a system that makes the energy limitlessly abundant. And of course that system was created in the US. It was the Federal Reserve System that printed money and created credit mostly out of thin air in order to get the oil. A very important part of that, especially in the beginning, or from the beginning, was the military power, the Pentagon, Defense Department, because that Defense Department basically is the bully that forces the whole world to accept the petrodollar and accept them to deliver oil in return for the dollars that are printed, but also forces them to accept dollars in return for products that they have made using oil that they can only buy with dollars. So the whole system in the world runs on the fact, the US dollar is the reserve currency because of the military dominance. If it wasn't because of that, or there was no military dominance, of course other countries would start accessing oil and energy around the world, and they would sell it in their own currencies, and they would be completely independent of the US, and that's something the US wouldn't accept, or hasn't accepted in the past. Now, so you have basically a triangular relationship between society, the printing press, which provides the limitless oil supply. People that talk about debt are simply not understanding how the system works. There is no debt, there's just credit created to get to the oil. There's no intention whatsoever to pay back the debt, and that's very easy to understand because you personally have been consuming this oil, have been spending this money on the fuels, and you yourself can never repay that energy that you have been using. I in my life can never work off the energy that has been expended on my many flights and driving around in cars and all that stuff. It's just impossible. And all the production that I've been enjoying of all these products, I can never repay that physically. The whole point of the exercise is that we've been living under an umbrella of the US Defense Department securing the petrodollar, mainly in the interest of the US and also in the interest of the rest of the world, the allies of the US. Now there's a shift taking place because of peak oil, and the shift is that a couple of rich people see peak oil coming, plus they have a new set of parameters to work with, which is that they realize that they don't need people or society at all. If they're rich and they're sitting on top of the printing press, they can print enough dollars to fuel their own lifestyles and fuel whoever wants to work for them. But everybody else is completely irrelevant. The whole society of the US is not relevant anymore to the rich. That's a realization. It can only come about if you have the petrodollar secured by the defense system, and if you are in control of the money supply, which these people are. The rich, Citibank, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Wall Street. And what they're basically trying to do is to create a holiday resort out of the US, with everybody outside the holiday resort, and they don't give a damn what happens to them. They don't want to govern. They don't want to take care of them. They don't have to create a coherent society. They're not trying to achieve anything with the people that are not within the compound, within the holiday resort. And that's why you see a government that has is now thoroughly corrupted. Supreme Court that is thoroughly corrupted, thoroughly infected with the same mindset of these rich people, which is to basically demolish government to a point that the GOP now calls for simply closing down government. In some kind of act of mimicking the strike that Clinton and the White House did, because he couldn't get a decision made by the Republicans. That was back in the day when Republicans still believed in society. Republicans or the rich people that call themselves Republicans have learned, have understood that society is no longer necessary, especially when you have countries like China and India and wherever. People want to work for the oil that you supply to them and want to give you their high quality products. It's just not necessary. So, and that's the situation we are moving into right now. It's a situation in which society will disintegrate because nobody cares about it, and the people that are in control of defense and are the rich and the elite, they can simply enjoy the fact that they can force the world to supply the oil for the dollars and supply whatever they want for it. And they will retreat in holiday resort. And also, to secure that situation, they have to suppress any alternative energy emergence or whatever like that. Because, of course, that would create a new society with people dependent on each other for quite a lot. And it would create wealth and a power base for people to resist this basically indifference from a federal level. Now, there's two scenarios for the military to play or in the future. And the scenario that is now the case is that they cannot stop enforcing the petrodollar because they would jeopardize the lives of all Americans. So in the US, they cannot really say, well, you rich people, you're so antisocial, so insensitive and so egotistic. We're not going to protect you anymore. We're not going to enforce the petrodollar. We're going to let whoever wants to get the oil where they want to. And of course, that's not something that they decide themselves. Of course, they're being challenged all the time, also by China. So they have to fight off all these attacks, and they have to get the help of the rich elite and the Federal Reserve to do that. So they have to be funded, and we are seeing that, of course, they're fully funded. Of course, they're priority number one. So they cannot really do that. They cannot really disable this system as it is developing right now. They have to work with it because let's say the elite that want to have the holiday resort are keeping the rest of the country hostage. So you're gonna enforce our petrodollar, and we're gonna enjoy that. Or if you stop, everybody will have a big problem because we won't have food supply. Everybody will starve. And that's the situation we're in right now. So I guess people with a conscience in the Defense Department will realize this and see, well, okay, the government is completely corrupt. It's not gonna, and it doesn't care about the people, and we really understand why it doesn't, because it doesn't have to. It can print dollars and get whatever it wants. Why would it think about social coherence? It just needs to have a big fence around their holiday resort. And we are here as a Defense Department. We are defending them because we want to actually we also have our duty to defend the American people. And we're kind of stuck by their basically suicidal threat that if we stop serving them, well, we also stop serving the rest of the people. And that situation is something that will culminate in a coup, because of course it's an effort to do that for the Defense Department, to keep fighting off the threats to the oil supply and to keep losing people in battle. It will simply not be, they will not bear it. They will see, okay, strategically and traditionally, the US is of the US people, of course. And we need to protect them, and we don't need to protect the rich elite. And the best thing we can do is protect the petrodollar and at the same time knock out this elite. It's very easy. Very easy for them to do. So that's how I analyze it. So the question is, when will this happen? How far will things have to go before you get a conflict within the Defense Department, or people there develop this intention to simply knock out and install a military government? I think it's that's the scenario, and I think it's inevitable that this will happen. It's inevitable because the military is populated by people from the general population, and just like the police force, they are also low-wage people, and they won't take it at a certain point. So I think I hope you agree, and I hope it happens peacefully if it happens, and I hope it happens soon as well.